Go. Hello, this is Becky Norwood with Spotlight Publishing. We are having a major celebration today, celebrating Dr. Patricia Boulogne's beautiful and wonderful book, Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired? Congratulations, Dr. Boulogne. You are a best-selling author and
Yay!
in both the print and the Kindle version, which is quite an accomplishment, a beautiful accomplishment.
I'm so touched. Thank you.
I can hardly hear you. Got it.
I said I am absolutely touched. I couldn't do it without, direction. Do this first, do this second. And so I so appreciate all your support, Becky, and helping me with it.
It's been quite a journey. I was kind of running through. Of course, I've looked at your manuscript a million times in order to get it to the place that it's ready to be published. But you have when you explain, like we talked this morning in our interview, and you explained um, why you came out of retirement and what caused you to come out of retirement to be able to serve the world in the way that you do. And it's truly beautiful. But one of the things in your book that you provided, and it's at the very beginning, after you've explained your journey and to why you came out of retirement, you had a quiz. You offer a quiz. Now you have questionnaires all throughout the book, but this one quiz asks some very key questions. And I wanted to share and talk about this in the sense of really honing in on just where we truly are as far as our health. Your first question is, do you feel like your health has declined or worsened in the last 2 years? And the way you put these questions together, and I'm going to bring them over onto my screen so my head's not going the other way. You have yes, has your body weight changed either up or down by 10% in the last 5 years without dieting? Do you have difficulty falling or staying asleep? Do you take any prescription medications? Do you take over-the-counter non-prescription medications for pain, inflammation, upset tummy, sleep aids, etc.? Has your doctor told you you have blood pressure, blood glucose, or other cholesterol issues? And do you catch every cold and flu that comes around? And so, that's the subject that I want to talk about, and what this questionnaire and why you put this series of questions together, and why your book is going to be very, very useful for those that are really wondering what's going on with my health. Why is it all of a sudden I'm just not well?
Well, even for people who are already in the best of health, those are good questions to ask also. Because the first question, a lot of people can do their life and they can, and they're not really aware of, like, I get a cold, you forget you have a cold. Your back goes out, you'll never remember the pain. You just know it hurt, but you never remember the pain, but you know that it happened, but you don't really know when. And so when you ask that question, it's a very general question. And what it makes you do is subconsciously ask yourself, like, it's last 2 years, huh? And it's just like, I had nothing, or I had something, and then you'll start to remember. So what the other questions ask you is they ask you about, do you do you sleep? Sleep issues in this country are out of whack, and they're in huge proportion. People can't shut their minds off. They don't get enough sleep. They don't get the melatonin levels are totally screwed up because they're not. When melatonin is surging in the body, and it's supposed to be there, you're up and you're reading your tablet, or you're going to the bathroom and you can't get back to sleep, that kind of thing. So each one of those goes into a kind of a different area. And when it goes into the different area, it looks at close to the 5 pillars of health that I talk about, because sleep is the third pillar of health. When you're taking over-the-counter drugs or medications are only mask the problem.
Right.
So if you're taking a medication for high blood pressure, it doesn't mean you don't still have high blood pressure. It just means that the med has kicked in and it's making the symptoms of high blood pressure, that number, whatever it is for you, it makes it look like it's normal when it's really not. And so we have, because you're not asking why. Why do I have, high blood pressure? why do I have high cholesterol? What's not functioning? What's, how come this
What's
is
going on? Yeah.
going on over here? So those questions are really just to like kind of anchor you and make you think about what's going on in my life right now, even if you don't have signs and symptoms, and go like, the last 2 years, I've gotten fat, or I've gotten, it's like I gained a couple pounds. But each year, if that keeps on happening, pretty soon you're 20 pounds overweight. And the poignant part of that is like, if you answered yes to any of those questions, then this book's definitely for you, because what this book will do, it will dive deep and it will show you where your weakest link's at. And it will also show you, the blessing is also shows you where your strongest links are at. So you got to know what you're working with, because you got to have something to work with in order to do magic. And then you can focus on like what's not working, and you can say, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to do targeted supplementation, or I need to change my lifestyle. I need to stop shopping in the middle of a grocery store.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's important to take a look at, where that all lies and how that plays out. So, the questions are really important, because it, qualifies, like it qualifies you. If you said yes, and you do those things, then you definitely need to, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your grandkids, you owe it to your children to take a look at what's really going on below the surface, because we can have a lot of signs and symptoms, but they don't necessarily always relate to what one of my mentors says is what you got isn't necessarily what you got. You've got to take a look at why
True.
that's happening there, and what's
Well,
going on.
I was looking at, and in the book it gives these endorsements, but you were able to pick up some really good endorsements. And Dr. David Freeman, he's a TV radio show host. He's an award-winning bestseller. He has the book Food Sanity. He said the word diet comes from the Greek word dieta, which means way of living. Unlike the plethora of typical diet books on the market, Dr. Pat focuses on the bigger picture, the body's interconnecting system. This allows you to discover the root cause and finally shed the stubborn pounds, stop the yawning, and become a healthier and better you. If you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, this is the book you've been waiting for. So, and there's numerous endorsements from people that are leaders in the health arena that really know that there's a better way. There's a better way, and there's the endorsements that you were able to pick up are just phenomenal.
Yeah, I remember when I first asked you, I went, don't you think these are a little long? And you said you never, ever, ever shorten a good, a great and good endorsement. I went, okay, I'll go along with that game plan. I never wrote a book before. I had no clue, what, when somebody, like, they gave it to me, I'm going like, oh my God, I was so touched, that, of what people were, saying. I even, one of the endorsements came from Luigi, and I can't think of his last name. He was the head of the Italian Lifestyle Medicine Association. And, I just knew him from, being on LinkedIn and communicated with him. But he was in Boston one time, and we missed each other connecting and actually meeting. And he told me he was surprised. He didn't know what to expect when he got the book, but he was really surprised, and it was so thorough. And, he really, he said, good for you. And, he has, we, keep in contact, but a lot of times people, they just forget their health. They're doing something else, and they don't pay attention to it until they have other things coming up to it. But, I've been very fortunate in some of the people. I ask everybody, I say, if you don't want to do it, if you don't want to endorse me, that's perfectly fine. You got too much going on. You can't write it now. And not one person I asked, even people who, who are some of the people who are really noteworthy on that list, said like, no, I really like your book. I'm going to take the time. I'm going to write. I'm going to give you an endorsement. And so, and a lot of people, sometimes they say yes and they don't show up. But, everybody that I asked for that, did, they showed up, and I was really, really touched.
Well, that's a real testimony to you, because if you open the pages of Dr. Pat's book, you will be very impressed with the questionnaires that she asks on every system of the body. And she goes even deeper towards the end of the book on just the systems for men and, the little things for men, and then a longer section, of course, for women, because we're a little bit more complicated than that. But the questions on each one of these, I'm trying to scroll over as we're talking to the first of the questionnaires, because you go into such depth of asking the questions that really make us stop and ponder. Yeah, well, where am I really, truly, with how I'm feeling? So, and you have a kind of a graph in there about the illness wellness continuum from the I want to bring it over because I think it's something that anybody that picks up your book is going to really want to study. And you talk about on the continuum of comfort, wellness, high level of wellness, and premature death. Are you on, if you're at the lower end of the scale, you're on multiple medications, your potential is limited, your body has limited function, whereas optimal health goes at 100% function, there's continuous active participation, and you have a really healthy wellness lifestyle. So as you go on into explaining it, and they are able to put the numbers together to look at what the results are from your questionnaires that you ask. You really put a lot into this to bring this to the world.
Thank you. The thing about the first question on those 7 questions, and the thing about this image, is that it shows me where people's perceptions are. Like one of them is definitive, and this here is like where people think their health is, and where their health, really is, might be 2 different things. So from that, you jump into like looking at what the questions are in the organ systems and how they work like a Swiss watch. And when one kind of falters, it will affect something else along the line, whichever is your weakest link. And then you can see what that is. And then there's ways to put the pieces of the puzzle back together for you so that you can recreate foundationally where your back to basics is. Because a lot of people don't know where their basics are. And so if you know that, then you can really do things. So what happens with a lot of people that I see, a lot of people are trying to put the cart before the horse. But the thing is that you can't do that, because if you do that, you're missing the thing. There's no magic pill. And when you put the cart before the horse doesn't push, it pulls. And so in order to get the horse in front of the cart, you've got to do some maneuvering. You have to make some changes. And then after it's not over yet, because the cart is in behind the horse now, you've got to attach the horse to the cart. And then you have to be willing to get into the driver's seat and be accountable for your health, so that you have clarity, so you know which direction that you're going. So you've got to sit in the seat, and you've got to crack that whip, and you've got to keep on moving forward, because you can't go backwards, and you can't stay where you're at, because if you do nothing, things usually get worse. They don't get better.
Typically they don't, right? And so in your questionnaires, you start, I believe it was, you start with the gut. Why do you make that the first priority?
Well, I have a Dr. Patism, and my Dr. Patism is that, or is, you fix the gut and you change your life. Everything that we have control over comes, you put your hands on it, goes into your mouth, and then you have to be able to assimilate that, so the body can get all the nutrients that it needs in the right time, in the right place. And what happens is that when that doesn't happen, then you injure the one cell lining of the gut, and then foods can seep out into the blood system. And when it does that, it's got to go to the liver, because the liver is the next section, right? It's the next category. It's the next chapter. And so when it seeps out, it's got to go to the liver, and the liver's got to be able to handle it over a period of years. And you have the accumulatory effects of toxins, from the air that you breathe, the water you drink, the, things that you inhale in your house, like the plug-in type things, or the dryer sheets that you use, the cleaning fluids, or even the backyard gardening stuff. If you're around that, and we all know that Roundup is, it's not a good product to use. And we know those things. We know that that causes a problem, and we also know that that trauma is one of the big reasons why people get sick. Also, so it's trauma,
Absolutely.
toxins, thoughts, and so when you have that trauma, it creates the inflammation. If you have all the toxins, it creates inflammation. But they first usually enter through your nasal passages or down your throat. So if you're not able to assimilate that well and the liver can't handle it anymore, it buries all those toxins deep. It buries them in blood, brain, bone, and fat. And if you can't get them out of your system, it's going to stay there. And if it stays there, it's going to accumulate until you have a bigger problem and you have some crisis that, you might have like had those symptoms along the way, which I call Grim Reaper syndrome, but you might have paid attention to them, but then they went away. They come, they go, they come, they go.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the point is that we have to pay attention to our health. We have to pay attention to what we eat, how we're eating, and how we're combining that. You have to know, like, well, why is this? Like, why am I feeling like this? And just because, your parents, they know now that just because your parents had a, hereditary disease doesn't mean you're going to have it, because we know that epigenetics gives us a different messaging for that. And our epigenetics is how we're responding to our environment. It's
Right.
huge, and so putting those pieces of the puzzle. And the last part about getting sick is your thoughts, because if you can't muster those and get a handle on those, it can undo everything that you do that's good for you in toxins, and also in the trauma aspect of it, up to 7 times. Because we know that when we're upset, our stomach gets upset. So our gut is so important to me.
Everything's so intertwined, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing that especially in Chinese medicine always has a great diagram for this also, about like what the energy of what you eat goes this way, and and the nutrients go up to the lungs so it can oxygenate and you can make blood, and then it goes to the heart so it can pump and so it can be stored in the liver. There's a whole story behind all that and why that happens, but it makes sense if you just take a breath and go like, this is not as overwhelming as it sounds, and and have somebody who can make sense of that wherever you're at, and who understands that kind of chart that's in the book, and they can help you with that.
So when somebody comes to you, they've gone through the book, they've answered the questionnaires, they've totaled up their scores, so to speak. What and you have a way for people to get a hold of you in this. So I did all the chart, and I come to you and I say, I think I need some help. Where do you begin? Where do you begin?
Well, I always start with an interview, just to make sure that, the person who I'm speaking with, we're going to have communication and we can work together. And then I explain to them how the thigh bone's connected to the knee bone, kind of thing. And we take a look at their chart and we go like, okay, so what's the pattern? And so when you're looking at that pattern, then you can look at like, well, I used to have a biochemistry teacher. The first thing he ever said, other than his name, when I first met him, was from the liver to the muscle, from the muscle to the liver. And I just, like, biochemistry for me at that time was like way over my head. And I just thought if I could just chunk it down day by day,
I don't want to hear it.
Oh God, it was taxing. I didn't, after I kind of got one lesson, then it all fell into place. Like getting there was a chore. But at any rate, so people, when I speak with them, they ask me, they've got a bunch of other stuff going on. For instance, somebody called me up one time regarding this book, and actually emailed me. She said, what can you do for chronic fatigue syndrome? And I said, you didn't read the book. When you read the book, then we can talk. 2 months later, she emails me again. She goes, well, what can you do for extreme fatigue and like for, diverticulosis? And I said, you didn't read the book. And when you read the book, we'll have a conversation. And so the interesting key point to that is that when she got it, she sent me a message a couple months after that. She said to me, I gave you a review when my first book came out. in her book that came out, she said, in its review, if you can read it yourself, it says that doctors only know when to diagnose you when you have a flat tire. So while you're having that static and those signs and symptoms going on, which might be signifying something deeper is going on below the surface, they're looking at you and they're putting the Band-Aid on the symptom that you have as opposed to your root problem. So when I talk with somebody, I'm always looking for, well, right now it looks like a big puzzle, but let me ask you a lot of questions so that, you can tell me about your life and about things that have happened to you and about your parents and about your grandparents. I always tell anybody when they always say, oh, it's genetics. I always say, if you eat the same way that your parents do and you have the same foods, you will have exactly what they have in some level of form. But then you have some families that might have cardiovascular disease in their families and heart disease. And then you have other members in that same family who don't have anything. Right. And you say, well, what's the difference?
It's their diet, typically. Their diet and lifestyle.
You got to go back to things that you have control over and what you can do about it. So it's lifestyle and specifically diet. And so if you can change some of those things, you don't have to make it into a drama thing. If you change some of those things, you can change the outcomes of your life and how you experience your life. Because that mindset and that positive mental attitude is so key in how you approach certain, when you have an ailment. It's like whether or not, you either are going to be successful or not successful. It's all up here, but it starts up there, and your brain's powerful. If you tell yourself, I'm going to be healthy, happy, vital, active, successful human being, you will be a vital, active, successful human being. Because those affirmations are huge, especially when you're
very much
with the mindset and how the three brains and how they work. The lizard brain, the mammalian brain, which is the relational brain, and also the conscious brain. So if your conscious brain, you talk a lot with it and you make those affirmations up so they're positive so that you can be successful at doing wellness initiatives and keeping on diet, keeping on track, and have the fortitude to say, with the lizard guy going like, go ahead, eat that chocolate. Go ahead, have that third piece of pizza. You can like click him off your shoulder so that he's not in control. You're in control and you're accountable. That gives you the ace of diamonds, the ace of spades, whatever one you want to have in your back pocket. So you're like not only accountable, but you're in control of your life. And that's what is really important in having accountability and control of your health.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, we're just really delighted that we've been able to work together to bring this book out to the world, because what you have written is a gold mine, a true gold mine. And for those that are listening, we have the link in the chat and we have it here on the screen. And pick up a copy. Dr. Pat is already a best-selling author right now, and we're celebrating that fact. But it's way more than that. It's pick up this book and really, truly read it. Take the questionnaires, reach out to Dr. Pat. She is more than happy to work with you to help you to bring your health back in line and to be vibrant and be able to really enjoy the life that you have. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to point out, when I work with somebody, because you asked me that a little bit before, I don't think about like I work with you and then you go home kind of thing. Or I go home, I go out and do something else. For me, when I work and parlay with my clients, we're doing this together. And I said this morning too, it's just like a lot of times if my client's doing something and they might be a little bit reluctant to do it, I do it with them. And it's like I can always improve my own health. I love improving my own health. And, so like I can answer questions because everything that I tell somebody to do, I have done it myself. And I have personal experience, and I have over 38 years of experience of watching people, go from being sick to managing things, to being in pain and getting out of that lifestyle to thriving. It's such a pleasure to see somebody have that.
Very rewarding. Very rewarding. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, we're celebrating this day with you, and we are very proud to have been able to work alongside you to bring this book to the world. And it's only the beginning, because right now it's the time that, as you go about your daily activities, and I know you're speaking on in a lot of occasions. You're out there, you're really getting your message out, and
Yeah.
that's the way that you become successful too as an author, is by being out there and sharing the message that you have. So we're really honored to be able to work with you.
No, thank you very much. Pretty soon I'll be starting my own podcast, which hopefully is scheduled for in July, is what my number is. But the people who I'm working with want me to do it sooner. So I have that to look forward to. It's a stretch for me, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to jump in the fire and figure out how to get to the edge, and work with it. But I really am looking forward to it, because I think there's not a lot of common sense in this day and time to begin with, but there's not a lot of common sense of like, hey, here's what I got. What do I do next? So that
Very
you can
much.
make sense of things, you can move forward. It can be simpler, faster, easier, and quicker, and you can get the results that you want to have in a shorter period of time. Who doesn't want that? I mean,
Oh, for sure.
there's pieces of the puzzle. And if there's something that you can, I always say in my Be Stronger Than Medicine, um, it's a master class, where I just go over the basics for that. Like here's this, here's the diet part, here's the exercise part, the mindset part, here's the proper posture part, and here's the the sleep part. All those pieces of the puzzle. I have the basics down, so you can look at like, well, she said that, I don't have that. Like, how do I get that? And then you can take a look at how you're in that particular course. You can take a look at how you're really managing in your environment. It's like, are you clearing those toxins or not? That
Right.
is the question. If you aren't, then you definitely have to do something.
Beautiful. Well, one of the things that that we've been looking at here at Spotlight is the light for Spotlight is called, the acronyms for it is Loving Influencers, Growing in let's see, Heartfelt Transformations, and that's exactly what you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So let's go on and continue to celebrate the day, and we honor you for what you've brought to the world. And for those that are listening, do pick up a copy of Dr. Pat's book. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye, everybody.